Hey, everybody. Welcome to a great new episode of the Orita Podcast. I'm Aaron Schwartz, one of the co-founders of Orita. We build AI customer segments for amazing brands. But today we are not talking about Orita. We get to talk about Misen. And so I have Michael and Katharine, who I've suckered in very politely to join us to talk about a little bit the history of the company, a lot about kind of the two of them. They're two of the smartest operators I've ever had the pleasure of spending time with. And I've been in commerce for a very, very long time. So before I keep rambling, let me have them introduce themselves. Katharine, you first, a little bit about you and your background, and then obviously what you're doing now.
Sure. My name's Katharine. I am the Senior Lifecycle Marketing Manager here at Misen. I've been here just about a year. Prior to being at Misen, I was on the agency side where I got to dig into the lifecycle marketing for a ton of brands with all sorts of diverse backgrounds. And prior to that, worked in the meat industry and as a cheesemonger. Michael.
We're going to talk more about the cheesemonger experience of that. How long were you a cheesemonger? I did not realize that.
About 3 years, I started moonlighting as a cheesemonger while working
As one does.
at an engineering firm, and then went full in for a couple of years.
Sorry, but I have to keep prying. Give me 30 more seconds about this. What was that experience like? Please.
Oh, it was amazing. So I always knew I wanted to work in food and with food people, but the kitchen environment was too intense for me. Oh, cheese it was. I got to work doing at a shop with, 150 different types of cheese, giving people advice, and then also did a lot of beer pairings. Yeah.
It sounds very joyful and something that in 10 or 15 years, I could see you being like, all right, I'm back. That was a great fun ride in brands and agencies, and I'm just going to go find joy every day. Thank you for sharing. Michael, outside of your passions for cheese, anything you can share with us about your background, how you got to Misen, please?
Sure. My background is a little bit of everything and nothing related to cookware, which is why I think I'm perfectly suited for the job. I think the closest food experience I had was writing my thesis in college as food as performance art. And my mom used to joke that, no, you actually graduated with a degree in marketing because you got the school to pay for it. You cooked your thesis and graduated with honors. So it's been a while since I've been focused on food, but happy to be back.
And your role at Misen and what your main point of focus is right now?
Whatever needs doing. We are a small team. Over the past 8 months, we've fluctuated between 12 and 14 people. That's not a lot. So at any given time, somebody at Misen is doing the role of several people. So whatever needs doing is what I do.
I actually want to kind of linger on that point for a while because that was one of the first things I think in our first call that struck me about you guys is an extraordinarily small but mighty team. How do you decide what are the things that you're focusing on in-house, and how do you decide what are the things where you're bringing in, maybe an agency or maybe a part-time contractor or maybe software? What is a toggle for you guys?
Well, I think it's we're lucky. We're lucky because we get to do whatever we want. Most companies are not set up that way. They are at risk of breaking covenant. They're doing what their board members and investors say. They're doing what the CEO said, here's our path. Nobody gets to suggest something other. We're not like that. So we decide that we want to work on the fun stuff and we want to otherwise avoid the work that's not fun. So yeah, we automate, we outsource. We don't want to do the stuff that's not fun because you end up doing that every single day. You get pulled into the weeds.
Is it the type of thing where you guys will do the work first, figure out what good looks like for Misen, and then go bring it externally? Or do you first start kind of bringing in kind of third parties to support?
No, we have to be informed. One of our phrases here is show over tell all the time. I mean, I could tell you my opinion on what our return rate is, or I could just send you a link to a platform that tracks it. I could tell you what I think customers think about our products, or I could let you log into our review system and see what customers think. So that show mentality allows us to be really lean because there's no, oh man, I got to ask Katharine and she has to ask so-and-so and they've got, maybe by Monday, they'll have a report. We have no PMs. We have no BAs, that whole layer of humans in the middle. Nope. We want highly intelligent, highly paid people, a lot of automation so that we can enjoy all the work that we do.
Love it. Katharine, I want to go back to your agency background a little bit because you and I haven't really spent time there. Misen is definitely different. We serve a couple hundred clients, right? Big, small, subscription, not long consideration cycle, fast moving consumer goods. As an agency, you obviously saw a bunch of different customers. What is it that's unique about Misen that makes you guys so great? And what is kind of the through lines where you're yep, the best brands all do this type of stuff?
Yep. So I think the big thing that sets Misen apart in my mind is that we're very product driven and that everyone on the team loves cooking. We all use the products. And like I said, product driven. So the product team is developing new items. And then I kind of get to come in and support that and make sure that customers are learning about that rather than us finding our customers and figuring out what products to develop for them. So that makes it really interesting. It means our customers are coming in really engaged. It means that everyone on the team is really excited about what we're doing and that the conversations we're having internally can be used for our marketing. Whereas, on the agency side, I definitely saw some brands that the founders were still heavily involved and they loved what they were offering, and other brands where it was just trying to hit sales goals by any means, which isn't very fun, honestly, coming in and doing Lifecycle.
You get on the treadmill of let's go send just one more email today or send that one email to everybody, not just the right
Yeah.
people. And then you do that across different channels. When you guys, I want to go back to the founding of Misen and like kind of how this company is scaled and kind of changed, but just very quickly while we're talking Lifecycle, when you think about Lifecycle, Katharine, as like somebody again who's experienced this across multiple, for you, is it like, hey, email, SMS, direct mail, loyalty? Are there other pieces of the pie? Like what is kind of the universe of Lifecycle as you see it? Is retargeting part of it?
Yeah. So of course we do have those core, bring people in through the sign up form, send them the welcome emails and the abandons and all of that. But I do think with our products, education is a really big part of it. We have people sign up and then we want to really drive home how these products will improve their life and improve their experience in the kitchen. Also, a lot of folks are coming in for something very specific. They came in because they heard we have a great chef's knife. Next step for me is how do we tell them about the benefits of our new carbon nonstick pan or something like stainless steel. So those education touch points are a really big part of what we're doing. And then also looking at data, primarily in triple whale, that can inform me when someone orders a fish spatula, what's the next product that they're going to most likely be interested in.
It is really interesting because it's obviously like a narrow SKU set compared to, a generic apparel brand, right? But it is like the knife versus the pan versus all the other products you guys can bring in. I'm going to ask you to abstract away because I don't want to go like too deep into like your big secrets, but like it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up. You're a brand that like thinks a lot about education. Is now actually a great time to educate people because you still have a month or two, or is now time to be like, start battening down the hatches and start being like, hey, look, you've kind of heard a little bit about us. Here's a bigger discount. Like, how would you abstract for kind of other brands who are in the same type of category?
So I think at this point for us, it's a combination. We're looking at product feedback from the full year to see where the pain points are that can be addressed as part of Black Friday marketing. Also, though, just kind of full steam ahead, of course, getting ready for those special offers.
Cool. Thinking about kind of P&L type of side right now, right? This time of year, you guys just had a gangbusters launch. I am a customer now many times over, right? So I just bought 3 pans, but I was actually gifted some by my brother-in-law. I think I told you previously, maybe 2 years ago. They were like, your pans suck. And they got us new pans and it was you guys. So that was pretty wonderful. For you, as you're thinking about like the education side, hey, we've got to go hit numbers or whatever, like where does your mind go or how does it shift during this season, if at all?
It doesn't. So most brands are focused on the seasonal approach. Let's try to lose as little as we can outside of Q4, and then let's maximize profit. That's insane. I came from that world. I came from health insurance and Medicare marketing, right? Spinning up massive call centers, trying to break even, and then make all your, that's just an insane way to structure a business. So don't structure it that way. So we don't. We are profitable in each month. So when we think about education, now works. There's 2 times to educate a customer: when they have a question or we have something that needs explaining, right? We just launched a new knife. We need to explain why our new knife and the steel that we're using, a Kudo 440 steel from Aichi, is rust-proof, right? So I think brands really focus on the calendar when they should be focusing on the individual consumer. Just because it's November doesn't mean I suddenly need a knife. Yeah, it might be sales and I might be more inclined to purchase, but my questions are year-round. So if we answered them in April, your propensity to buy in November just went up.
Trying to think about this as a proxy to SaaS, right? So the first decade of my career, like I was a consultant, we won't talk about that or MBA, but like in commerce, right? The first decade was running a brand. And then for 7 years now, I switched over to much more of the commerce tech side. The thing we always talk about on a customer lifecycle, which is like a you guys or a Spanx or whatever, right? Is like your day one is different than her day one is different than his day one. So it's like, what should you expect on day 30, day 60, day 90? And yes, there will be seasons where you're going to want different aspects, but it sounds like you guys think about your consumers the exact same way, which is like, you can't rush. It's not like somebody who learned about you today, let's go hammer them with XYZ discount just because it's a season. It's like, wait, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I think about this. It feels like you guys are very good at figuring out when people are listening and what they want, not what you want to tell them. Is that a fair?
Correct. You
kind of
can't, I mean, I guess you could sell cookware. We don't. We just present it. And if people want to buy it, sweet. But it's not something that's really primarily need driven, right? Like, it's not like the pan handle fell off your pan today. You just reached some point on a curve where you said, I need an upgrade. Will you survive if you don't upgrade? Probably, right? So because of that, the messaging should be constant and the education should be constant, because there's nothing about our business that is by nature seasonal. It's not like people don't cook and they use DoorDash all summer and then suddenly October hits and everybody's making soup, right? It's not the case.
Did just get invited to a soup competition in a couple weeks. So I hate to break your facts, but
I know where you can get an amazing stainless steel Dutch oven for that soup competition.
All right. If it can be delivered in time, and I also need a recipe and I need to learn how to cook. So let's we'll have
we can help you with 2 of those things.
Okay.
But one point I want to make on that too is that cookware is weird. It is a weird industry. The only other thing I can think of is products for kids, right? If you buy a car, you expect to follow certain rules. Put this type of gas in it. Drive the speed limit. There's 4 seatbelts. Put 4 passengers in it, right? Cookware's like kids. People will buy pots, pans, knives, etc., and use it how they see fit. Same with their kids. Feed them whatever they want. Bedtime. Everybody's different. So that's something that's different for our industry, is that we have to understand that people's use of our tools are going to be across the board, which is a lot more interesting than if we're doing something as narrow as cars.
All right, Katharine, as a lifecycle marketer.
I see that Aaron froze. I don't know if we're totally frozen.
Can you hear me again? I did freeze for a second, but I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Or it's AWS.
No, I can hear you guys. You can't hear me?
US East. Come on.
Oh, this is...
Excuse me. That's why we didn't have this last week, because I was massively sick. Well, I'll host. One of the things that I know Aaron was interested in talking about is, given our small size, how do we use automation? How do we use AI? How do we exist with a small team? Katharine, you want to talk about that from a life cycle perspective?
Yeah,
while I cough?
Yeah. So like one of the big things I've learned that's changed over the last couple of years is that these AI tools are essential really to work efficiently. So on the life cycle side, we're using them all over the place. For process, the Asana AI has been great, automating more of the rules to keep projects moving from the creative team over back to me in marketing. We are using the attentive AI features to time our sign-up units. I've also found it really useful for segmentation and send time, which I'd previously been spending a lot of time testing and tweaking. And then, of course, similarly, using Orita to help with cleaning up our list. My process for scheduling campaigns is much, much more simple than it was a year ago, even. And then the last big piece of that for me has been Triple Whale, which pulls in all sorts of data and really helps me build out those life cycle journeys. When previously I would have had multiple spreadsheets and all sorts of segments to learn about customer behavior, now I can just hop in Triple Whale and ask Moby a quick question. Like I mentioned earlier, if someone orders X product, what are they going to want next? Or what will their lifetime value be? I can grab that info in 5 minutes and turn that into new flows.
Can you guys hear me again?
Yeah, you're back.
We can.
Michael, I actually got to watch and listen. And Michael, you were a much better interviewer than me. So I kind of wanted to just pretend like I couldn't go re-figure this out. Katharine, thank you for walking through Triple Whale. I guess my question for you on the Triple Whale side is, and again, this is like going back to your experience across many brands. How do you think about attribution? Because like ultimately you've got to make a decision, and like it's like most things in life. Like this is the best of the like there are hard choices, and like you're making the best of it. Like what does attribution mean for you guys, or how do you lean in if it's different than maybe some other companies?
I'll speak to maybe just the life cycle side of that, and then let
Please.
Mike address it kind of on a larger scale. I'm looking at linear all attribution typically. So however many sources people come in from, we're splitting that credit up equally. I found that really useful, of course, in platforms, Klaviyo and Attentive, and I'm sure all the others that folks are using, they're trying to get a lot of credit, which is fair because they don't have the full picture. For me, it's been really useful to use that linear all attribution. I can then see the effect of, what happens if we do an email and an SMS on the same day versus having them on separate days. What's happening with our flows and kind of how are all of these pieces working together?
Thank you. Michael, do you want to double click on any piece of this?
Yeah, never use averages and don't zoom in too close when it comes to attribution. Zooming in too close would be somebody looking at Lifecycle and saying, oh my gosh, ROAS in Klaviyo is 30. This is amazing. We should send more emails. No. Where did those customers come from, right? If you shut off all organic content and all ads, your list stops increasing. So by definition, you've got to look at it more organically and across the board. We do look at drivers. We look at when we make a change, or especially when we reduce something, the effect that has. But again, we're not trying to hit some insane quarterly number or arbitrary goal. We are doing well, quite well. And the benefit of that is we get to think long-term about, is this working or is it not working? If you zoom way in and you look at any individual hour, holy heck, look at what our Google ROAS for this hour versus that hour. Who cares? It's noise. So we definitely use data, but we use it to inform what we're seeing in terms of trends across the board.
You kind of leaned into a topic that is obviously top of mind for everybody right now, is like, you can't just turn off the new customer spigot and you need to go get people, but there is the tension of CAC is just going up and up and up, and it's harder than ever to target. I'd love for you guys to chat a little bit about that. And if it's useful, bringing in the fact that you guys are exceptional at Kickstarter, and I'm sure that has a big place. But if you think about the top of the funnel, where are your new, not even new customers, like new prospects coming from? And what are you finding like most effective for you guys?
Sure. I'll talk about why it works for us. The first is product. And when I first started here, we had product problems. One of them being that our name was not on most products. So it literally wasn't. We had 5 dots, just no Misen.
That's
anywhere.
funny. That's what my pan is.
In fact, I saw a ticket during my first week of a guy saying that he stayed at an Airbnb, used one of our stainless steel pans, thought it was amazing, spent a week Googling 5 dots to try to figure out who we were. That was one of the more straightforward things to fix. Hey, does anybody not want to put our name on the product? No, cool. Let's start putting our name on a product. That takes time, right? 12 to 18 months for full product development life cycles. So there's a lot of things that we did that took a lot of time. The one thing I will say is the drivers of CAC, I don't think that's advertising. I think it's product and it's creative. If you think you're doing everything right in product and creative, then start caring about the nitty gritty in terms of targeting and budgets and, how many impressions per creative that people are getting. But I think the big drivers for us are make better products and explain it in a very pedestrian way in our creative. You'll notice that we don't have any crazy made up names, right? Z65, all the lawns, the Circulon, Analon, Tuffalon, Nonalon, all that stuff that's in cookware. That's a barrier to understanding, which is a barrier to conversion. We like using super pedestrian information.
Michael, I always think about better product as improving LTV, but I guess the flip side is like better product also improves word of mouth. How did you you obviously have like strong conviction here. What have you seen in the data, or what makes you feel that like actually it's not about CAC, or like the driver of like lowering CAC is product in particular?
Well, the first was us, right? It shocks me every time I'm asked to take a peek in a company. It shocks me when I see that not everybody uses the product. Everybody here uses our product, right? Your first week here, you're putting in a couple $1,000 order of a bunch of stuff, everything coming to your house. On Wednesdays, when we have R&D meetings, my desk is just piled with stuff. And the question isn't, hey, what are you opining in space in your head about this product? It's, hey, no, I use this and I use that. And here's what happened with this. And here's what happened with that. We're always touching product. And so it starts with this team. So once this team is super passionate about a product, then we start putting it in other people's hands and getting feedback. Once they give good feedback, then we say, okay, now we can actually make the thing.
Katharine, I want to come back to you on the lifecycle marketing side. When you guys run Kickstarters, and you just ran a monster one, I don't even know what the latest numbers are. Like I have some stats, but I'm curious how, like what the actual latest and greatest or what it ended at. How do you think about lifecycle marketing in terms of Kickstarter? Because like it's new product that talks to old customers, new product that talks to prospects, but new product that also talks to like net new people.
Yeah.
Walk through it, please.
So as you mentioned, it's definitely, we have to segment people out based off of their interaction with previous Kickstarters and whether they're new coming in from this one. So something that we did with this last Kickstarter was launch with a waitlist form. We went ahead and told our customers, hey, we have something really big coming. If you're interested, hop on this list. You'll be the first people to know. So that definitely helped me gauge that initial interest. As we did start having people come in through Kickstarter, it was definitely very careful with those contacts as I was able to sync them to Klaviyo, making sure that we weren't bombarding these folks with messages. One of the challenges from my perspective with Kickstarter was that it doesn't sync up order data until it's time for us to actually fulfill the orders. So I had this large segment of people who were technically customers, but had not received any product yet. So with those folks, it delayed the post-purchase flows that would typically start as soon as someone placed an order and delay them until fulfillment. And also in that time was careful to not overwhelm those folks with messages. They did not need to get campaigns every day or even every week. And now those people are those new contacts from this Kickstarter are more fully integrated into our standard lifecycle marketing, but making sure to keep our list really clean. And if those folks came in through Kickstarter and have had no interest in any other product, we're not going to keep pestering them until we have something new and exciting to talk about.
Again, as a customer of the Kickstarter, I actually forwarded the email to Michael and I was like, great job not messaging me before I got the product. And he's like, tell Katharine. And I was like, of course. And like, I know, but it was like the type of thing where it was very clear that you guys weren't just pestering. I think a lot of brands miss how important the communication cadence is. I think about this candidly, even with like tracking numbers and shipping. And my biggest bugaboo is like Apple, biggest company in the world, still will send you a tracking code immediately upon purchase. And then it will say, item not created or return label not created. It's like, why, what are we doing here? Like, why are you engaging with me during this period? So you guys do this extremely well. When you think about the Kickstarter and like that list, and you think about the other parts of lifecycle, how do you exclude people then from retargeting as well in other places and like SMS and email? Or is it, you kind of like run all those exactly the same and just you're waiting the week or the month or whatever it is on the fulfillment timeline until you start engaging with folks?
So a lot of that I was just doing on a case-by-case basis. So of course, once someone we knew had purchased on the Kickstarter, was excluding people from messages about that specific product, unless it was an update, like we just increased the maximum temperature for the pan. Those people are everyone is going to receive that message, even if they've already purchased.
Yeah.
Whereas other messages, like I said, kind of those day-to-day campaigns, a lot of them were not especially relevant necessarily to that segment, so they were excluded. But I did leave abandoned flows and things that were based off of behavior on for those customers. If they participated in the Kickstarter and then came to the site and were looking at Dutch ovens, I did want to make sure that they were getting relevant information.
I love it. You two are just so delightfully data-driven. It's really nice. I do have a question about being data-driven. Are there any things that you guys are doing at this point that is more gut feel? Like Michael, you made the comment, the data, yada, yada. It's like our name's not on the pan. Let's put our name on the pan, right? You get to do that. Do you do any other big decisions by gut feel, or do you probe and like do experiments because you're like, look, I think this might work. Let's then go get the data. Or how do you approach kind of trying new things?
Data is a signal. That's it. It doesn't mean do something or don't do something. It's a signal. You know what else is a signal? If you have a buddy that's an expert in the field that says, hey, I got an idea, you should do this. If you have an aggressive board member, for example, we do not freaking love our board. If you have an aggressive board member that says, you have to do X, we don't have those issues. Data is just a signal that we use. I'll give you one example. We used a spin to win for 14 months, 16 months, something like that on our site. Attentive sign-up unit, spin to win. Super cheesy. I think Pura Vida was the first Shopify brand to do it like a decade ago. Everybody does it. It increases conversion. Here's the challenge. Spin to win is the opposite of our brand ethos. It's artificial gamification, right? Our brand is not artificial anything. You got a question, we answer the question. We tell you the truth in the most pedestrian language, simplest language we possibly can in the most direct way. Spin to win is the opposite of that. So we were faced with the data saying the sign-up units on Spin to Win are better than anything else. And the brand issue of, yeah, but none of us want to do that, right? So what we did is test a whole bunch of units to see what was as close as possible without having anything to do with Spin to Win. And then we switched to that. It took us 2 months, I think,
I'm still
to figure that out. Yeah. But again, the first ones were horrific, right? So as a group, we're saying, data says we have to do Spin to Win, but everything we know to be good and true is we do not want freaking Spin to Win on our site. Data is just a signal. If in the end, for example, pretend that Spin to Win was 50% better than the sign-up unit, we would still abandon it. Because the point is we're a brand. It's not do anything for conversion at all costs. I've seen brands do that. I know brands that do that in our space, and that's just not the way that you build a community or a brand.
What are some of the, Katharine, you mentioned you're still kind of testing that, right? As an aside, what are some of the other things that you're testing right now? And again, not trying to, again, abstracting away so like other brands can learn from you, right? Like what are whether it's in the marketing funnel or even on it could be the conversion funnel, it could be top of funnel, it could be any other piece of the business, your returns, your CRM, like where are the places that you guys are experimenting and excited to level up the business right now?
So some of the big ones, the sign-up units, of course, all of the spin to wins are dead, but I'm testing out, different colors for the CTAs, different treatments for the headlines, different copy. There's always room, I think, to improve those. And of course, the timing as well. Within Klaviyo, doing a lot of testing with the flows, especially the abandons. I'm taking a look at sending kind of those generic, here's what you left behind, dynamically pulling in the product versus here is a press hit on that specific product or some testimonials from customers. And it's interesting to see that based off of where someone is in the funnel, whether it's browse or checkout abandon, the results there will differ. And then, of course, there are the obvious timing for the flows. The win back will be something that I think I'll be testing the timing on forever to get just right. But I have actually set up a flow using some Orita segments to see if we can beat our original win back. And then always doing design testing, things like strike through pricing and sale campaigns, testing different segments. The list goes on. It's infinite, truly.
You and I should chat separately about the flows because I have some thoughts. I'm really excited about that. Thanks for walking through those. Michael, maybe stepping outside of the lifecycle marketing side, are there things in like internally with the business or like tools that you're testing where you're like, oh, here's how we can triple again without hiring 50 more people? What else are you excited to learn about or to explore?
Well, one of the things that we say is that we can't change the logo or the name, but everything else is up for discussion. So we don't have sacred units. Right? There's nothing on the site where we have somebody in creative saying, well, you cannot change that. This is how it is. That's brand identity. We don't have that, which allows for a lot of flexibility. The one thing I will say with a small team, I have seen companies who seem to major in signing contracts and we will not. So for example, you introduced us to somebody and my spidey sense immediately went, nah, we already added a tool this month. Let's not even touch another one until next month. It turns out we are probably going to move forward with them, but that's part of it. Is I've seen companies, especially small ones. Well, if we had this tool and this tool and this tool, your job becomes tool management. You can't actually do your job because you're busy trying to manage these tools that are supposedly going to help you do your job. So I would say be very judicious. And the second that a tool does not prove that it's a long-term driver, hard code the results, move on. Stop using something that's dynamic. I don't understand how a small or medium business can have 50 to 100 tools and use them appropriately.
Yeah. You and I have talked about this separately, but I think this is something that like most software companies get wrong, and not just in e-commerce, but anywhere, which is like, let people say no. If you do a good job, they will come back in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, or never. If you're not actually solving the core issue that they have, like, don't be annoying, don't keep going. It's like, it doesn't matter what your ROI is. Sometimes it's just like, guys, it's brain damage to turn on a new product. Let me just like batten down the hatches. And this just isn't the focus. I think especially when you are that kind of dozen person team at a fast growing company. I do think
one of the time too. Like by adding a new tool, you're saying this amount of time is way more important than anything else that's on my plate. So we might have, I'll take referral. I'm pessimistic about referral programs, always have been. I think they do drive some revenue. I think they're cannibalistic. If we had a new tool that was an amazing referral program, I would say, great, I would love to test it. Tell me one of these other 15 things that we're doing that's less important, and then we'll decide where to slot it in. If it's not, cool. It's now number 16, which means we probably won't get to it this quarter.
Yeah. I'm very much aligned on the time side. I do have a question that we even talked about in the past, but I'm curious, like, because you guys are growing so fast and you've got like such a passionate fan base and you're always trying to find new people, like how, if at all, does Omnichannel play into experimentation? Like where in the roadmap, if ever, how do you guys think about it? Just like, I want to get into your brain about how you're even processing the choice. Please.
We think about it. I think the biggest mistake that most brands make is that they think once they are in retail, that's it. It's solved. Right? I've talked to several brands that said, oh, we're going to be in Target, or we're going to be in Walmart, or we're going to be in Costco. And my follow-up questions are, cool, what's your media budget to drive eyeballs there? And the answer is, no, they're going to. No, they're not. There's a big difference between a brand where people are walking into the retailer saying, I want your stuff. And then the retailer contacts you and there's existing demand that you're just fulfilling with your product in there. That is very different than using a broker, arguing your way in, getting in there. You're like, yes, we convinced Costco to carry us, or we convinced Target to carry us. And you're like, yeah, man, you're going to be on a nice looking end cap for 6 days and you better move serious product. You're going to be relegated to the back and then dead. And then you're dealing with pallets inbound on the backside. So I think Omnichannel is different for every brand. Omnichannel is sequential, right? It's not everybody's deck in the world says, we're going to do this, and then it's going to be clicks to bricks. And then that's not how it works. It's way more organic. Is there an opportunity with a single retailer? I'll tell you that Best Buy's marketplace is not the same as Home Depot's marketplace, is not the same as Walmart's marketplace. It's not the same as Target. Completely different purchasing behavior, completely different customers. You've got to pick and choose. What is the next step for you, right? Because any brand that takes on 4 or 5 things at once, it's not going to execute them well.
I think one of the things that, even just like reflecting on this last 40 minutes, but also talking to you guys previously, is your messaging is consistent and the framework under which you're making decisions is consistent. And it actually sounds a lot like just internally having a board who is aligned with the leadership team, who is aligned with, like, even the discussion around, look, we're going to be listening to our customers and we're not going to be hammering them just because it's Black Friday. Like, we will have more purchases definitionally because people are more apt to buy now, but the goal is to like get somebody the right piece at the right time, right when they're ready for it. And then it feels like build them as a customer for life. I'll quit fanboying out and start asking you guys more questions, but I do love the actual like proper internal consistency throughout the org. I think it comes through in how you guys just operate. I want to talk about.
I really appreciate working here that Michael is very transparent about those meetings with the board, and in general, known that the company is siloed, which I do think means there's like a very consistent brand ethos.
It's great. Just know, if Michael ever says the board said this, it's really, he wants the thing done and he's using the board as the like, that's
Never.
the best part. It's like, oh, my boss.
I will say, functionally, one thing I do every 2 weeks, I have a 1-hour call with all of our board members on Thursday. It's like a mini board meeting. So a lot of times there's so much pressure in a board meeting. Oh my God, we missed this target, but this thing's amazing. Most companies spend the first half of a board meeting trying to explain away crappy results last quarter, and the second half of the board meeting talking about these big promises of how we're going to be successful. And then the next quarter comes, they do the same thing. Our board knows exactly what we're doing all the time. They know the good, the bad, the ugly. That's how you have a board that helps you make decisions with you, as opposed to walking in front of a judge once a quarter and saying, I know you haven't heard from Jack from us, but here's a fire hose of information. Please be helpful within 10 minutes. Like, that doesn't work.
I reflect back to my first board meeting in Modify, which probably was 2011. And it was a 3-hour meeting. I must have talked for 2.5 hours. And by the last meeting, which was, I think I talked for like 12 minutes, but I'd already sent the pre-read. They already knew everything that was going on. And then it moved into a working meeting. And the realization came after maybe a year of like the first style where I was just like presenting, where we had an incredible VC, this guy, Michael Berelsheimer. We had an incredible private equity guy who's like taken multiple companies public, Phil Estes, and a buddy who was a chief revenue officer at SurveyMonkey. And I was like, I'm clearly the dumbest person in the room. Like, why are we not, like, the whole point of that meeting is like getting multiple people. By the way, I'm on the board of my kid's school, and I'm like every minute reporting instead of getting people actually cross-talking and engaging is a miss. Yeah, we at Orita, we don't actually formally have a board, though. I'll tell the team if I need something done. I'm like, the board wants us, but I'm just being a jerk. But we basically every week or every 2 weeks, I send an update, like a more detailed one to our biggest investors with the things that matter, right? It's not a proper board deck or anything, but it's like, here's how we're trending. Here's what's going well. Here's who we churned. Here's who we turned on. Here's the lessons learned. And like very to the point. You never want somebody to have that surprise. And I think, to Katharine's point, it's nice the other way too, where like the team, it's like, everything's good, everything's good, everything's good. Shit, house is on fire. Let's go right now. It's like the team is obviously very, very aware of where you guys are at any point. And I want to talk about, I don't know if you guys have heard about AI, but we need to talk a little bit about it. What do you guys like? You're getting pitched 1,000 companies. I may or may not have introduced you to, I think, 2 in the last couple of weeks. So just like, look, I think this is interesting. No idea if this is useful for you guys or not. How do you think about like where AI is today in service of your business and where you're kind of hopeful it is in 6 months or in a year, or where things are going?
Let me talk broadly about it, and then Katharine's going to touch on when your interwebs went down. Katharine was highlighting some of the tools that we use.
I'm sorry.
From an AI perspective.
Thank you.
That's all right. I think bleeding edge is a complete distraction for the vast majority of businesses. And that's true of everything. So take the AI out of it. Let's say currency. The vast majority of our sales occur in US dollars. We're a US based company. The vast majority of our product deliveries are within the US, even though we're international. If I instead said, hey guys, we're going to start supporting Doge or Bitcoin or something else, I would expect some pushback, right? Especially the more obscure that I got with it. That's generally how I feel about AI tools. So if we have 3 dudes in San Francisco with a bunch of VC funds that have an AI tool versus Google Gemini, Google Gemini all day. I know that platform. I trust the platform. The risk around it. What happens if the funding doesn't work? What happens if it turns out it's 80 people overseas mechanical Stirk style and it's vaporware? You know what I mean? So I think the sexiness for us doesn't get us out of our seats because there's an equal amount of risk with that upside, irrespective of whether it's AI or not. So we look at things and we poke around and we test them. And if they seem to work, we do more of it. And they seem not to work, we do less of it. I know it sounds like common sense, but that's generally the solution to most business problems, as opposed to we have to go do this thing. Katharine,
I heard you talk a little bit, obviously, about Triple Whale and Moby, but the other pieces I missed, please. And then also like more looking forward, what problems are you interested in solving next?
Yeah. So in general, I feel like we've been using AI to simplify some of the things that were taking up more of my time than they should have, just because I was having to create segments and make spreadsheets to get to what I would have thought was pretty basic data. So the big things we're using currently are Attentive's AI for the timing of sign-up units for some of the segmentation, the send time for campaigns. I don't think any amount of testing could get me to their like optimized send time tool. I'm using Asana for our processes and of course Orita to help us keep our list clean and target the right people with those day-to-day campaigns. Those are really the big things. And it's nice those all layer onto tools we're already using. I don't need another login for another platform. It's nice to be able to use these within
That's
what I'm already.
One of the things we finally started kind of honing in on our messaging is that we are purpose-built for Klaviyo. Like over time, we're integrating with Attentive and PostScript in every platform, but limited time, limited resources. It's like do one thing really, really well. And the whole point is like, you don't need to go to somewhere to like download a list. It's like, go build it within the platform. And I think the more, it should never be about the software company. It should be about like the workflow that the brand has. And I think more companies are, figuring that out, but maybe not. I'm actually really curious about the Asana side because I remember when Asana was starting to build out their AI product and I had a discussion with one of the execs about like, the human shouldn't need to do a lot of the stuff. Like the routing should just happen automatically. Can you just go a level deeper on like how you guys use Asana? Because again, you guys are a wildly, impressively, I'm just going to keep adding nice words, organized company and like you get things done in a very thoughtful way. Like how do you leverage Asana to kind of run the business?
Sure. I love Asana. If I could use it for my personal life, I probably would.
You can.
I could, but I feel like, I don't know, people might find that a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
So we use it to keep track of pretty much everything, even if we discuss something in a meeting and everyone's clear on what they need to do, we're going to go ahead and put it in Asana anyway, just so we have the documentation handy. But all of our projects we track to Asana have a lot of automated rules set up so that there is no messaging, hey, this is ready for you. It all just moves along through the workflow. And then, I mean, I've set things up to be color coded, which I really like. Something I really like about Asana is that everyone on the team, I think, has been able to set up their own rules and workflow to work for their different style. And then using the AI just for that next level to say, if a task has this in the title and the status changes from this to this, here's what will happen next. I could go on forever about
It's
how we're
great.
using it, but I'd get kind of too in the
This is
weeds
good.
about specific roles.
I'm going to send them a
There's one
clip of the testimonial. So this is great. No, Michael, go ahead.
One important thing, and yes, I use Asana in my personal life. When to change the water filter, when to clean out the HVAC filter, all that. Yes, absolutely. We don't have family board meetings, by the way. I would say this, that the biggest issue with somebody using a task management tool, Asana, Monday, Trello, whatever, is that overlaps with other methods at most companies. The vast majority of, if you grab anybody in any company, director level above, and you say, tell me how you guys use Trello versus Slack, Asana versus Slack, Monday versus Slack, they're going to go before they answer. Asana for us is structured work. Slack is unstructured. If Slack burned down tomorrow, we would be fine. Slack is not a source of information. It's not the source of truth. If anything is important, you're probably linking to a Docker and Asana. So and then email is for external communication. So because of that, we forgot to put it in Asana. Well, that's the only place it lives is Asana. Unless it's not structured work, like it's a free time, fun hobby, cool experiment you're running. That's how it all ends up. So first is Asana is the only place for structured work. The second is, to Katharine's point, we allow people to do things differently. So we have some people that are all about the subtasks. They want to see everything broken down to subtasks. Some people are like, here's a parent issue, and I'm just going to link a Google Doc because I freaking love everything in a Google Doc. Awesome. Whatever works for you. So while we do have structured work, we're not saying this is the Misen way. I don't care how you've done it. Even if you're inefficient, follow us. It's, hey, here's the general structure of Asana, and do it the way you think is most efficient.
Appreciate this diversion. I think the framing of like, hey, there's a job to be done and there's internal alignment, and then here's the tool, but like really defining the kind of boundaries of the tool, what it's good for and what it's not, it's really hard for anybody to do. I mean, we struggle with it, right? And so I definitely appreciate that. All right, couple more questions and then I promise I'll let you guys go. We actually have a listener question. Can you guys talk a little bit about cannibalizing sales for existing products by advertising the pre-order or the new launch items to existing customers? So Katharine, going back to like Kickstarter's coming, you're talking about doing the wait list, you've got new stuff, but that new stuff might be coming in a week, in a month, in a quarter, right? Like it's still like a pre-launch. How do you find that balance?
So I think a big thing is we are confident that if someone is going to place an order, whether it happens today or happens in 2 weeks, they're still going to come back. So with the pre-orders, it's nice to know kind of what the demand is before we start shipping things. And even if it is like slightly discounted, I think that there is the benefit that people get their hands on it early. That's exciting. And will make them more likely to keep an eye on our communication in the future, also to be the first ones to get to try new products. Michael, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, the short answer is we'll be fine either way. So most companies, why do they come out with a new thing? The old thing sucks, or they need something to drive revenue. So they just made this new thing that probably shouldn't exist and isn't really worth introducing anyway. We only make new things if we can send an email once a month. Now, giant disclaimer, we don't send an email once a month, but we will not come out with a product unless we as a group think it's so great, we could send an email once a month. So one, we really believe in the new product. The second is the old product, still good. And we also don't have an insane amount of inventory. You'd be shocked by the number of companies that contact me, hey, let's help you fix your inventory problem. I'm like, we don't have an inventory problem. Like, we just don't. I talked to the GM of a food storage company last week. I have 3 of their sets. And I said, man, the new ones, the ones you guys hide on your sites are so much better. Like the valve is so much better. There's no stainless steel on it. It's like, it's so much easier to use. And the answer was, oh, well, the CEO ordered, 4 or 5 years worth of the old version. So that's what we're marketing. I was like, oh my God, that would just suck as a marketer. So the reason that We don't have to like toe a specific line of we have to sell the old thing to switch to the new thing. We're like, hey, the new thing's not out yet. Let's start pre-sales to see so that we don't have people buy the old thing and then regret it because they wanted access to the new thing. But the percentage of people that buy each, we're good either way. We will eventually run out of the old thing and eventually people will like the new thing.
That regret comment is such a great insight. I literally had that experience with the Aura ring where I finally got it. And then Aura 4 came out and they just switched it. There wasn't like a hassle. They're like, yeah, man, well, like it's a little bit more, we got you, right? Like we're going to send you the new ring. And it was such a delightful experience. If I'd known it was coming, I definitely wouldn't have ordered the 3 at the time. And so I love that framing. All right, couple more quick ones. I want one piece of advice from each of you, from Katharine, specific for marketers, for Michael, specific for, it could be owners, operators, whatever you want to do. You guys have said so much, so you can just double click on something and then I'll have one final question. So Katharine, you first. We're in October. It is Black Friday, Cyber Monday. That does not matter necessarily, not in the way that you guys think about the business. What is one thing that like you definitely want to share with all marketers out there?
I think a big thing that you have already touched on actually is finding tools that do one thing really, really well. There are a lot of companies out there that come to us with the perfect solution for 5 different problems, and it just does not work out that way. I would say identify your main pain points and then find the single tool that can fix each of them. And if down the line you can consolidate, wonderful. But yeah, those 5-in-1s, take them with a grain of salt.
Thank you. Michael, how about yourself?
Firsthand information and simplify. Right. I've talked to so many C-level execs that can talk about a software suite, but they've never logged in. I'm like, nothing you're saying, I can't trust anything you're saying. Like, you haven't used the tool. Freaking use the tool, right? If somebody's in charge of CS, but they haven't physically seen returned products, that's a problem. If somebody's in charge of product, but they're not actually talking to customers, that's a problem. So one thing we do is everybody has access to everything. Everybody can get in the weeds. Now, the flip side of that is with that comes additional work. So radically simplify. I don't believe most businesses should exist. I don't believe most businesses are well run. I believe that's because businesses just take on bloat as they grow, and suddenly you find yourself in 50 businesses when you originally just intended to sell cookware. So simplify. If there's a week that goes by that you as a business leader are not cutting something out of the company in terms of workload or priorities, your company's just going to get slower and older over time.
It's wonderful. Thank you. All right, last question. Where can folks find the two of you? And if there's like any advertisement you want to make for the business or any new product you want people to check out, now is the time. Michael, I'm going to start with you, and then Katharine, you get the last word.
Sure. Well, I mean, where can they find us? They can find our products on Misen.com and Amazon. Physically, we're all over. We're fully remote, which is why software is so key. We don't have an office. I would encourage folks to check out our knife. After 10 years, we finally redesigned it. And the most pain in the butt thing for me for any nice high carbon chef's knife is that they rust. And ours doesn't. You can stick it in the sink for 90 days. Doesn't matter. Won't rust. So we just released it now within 48 hours. So yeah, check out our knife 2.0.
You guys should have like
making
a live stream of a knife in a sink, and it's like wasting water, but then you use gray water so you don't feel bad about the, I love it.
We did that. We showed it next to fruit. Well, we still have to process the creatives, but yeah, we showed fruit rotting and all that stuff next to it over time.
Last word from you. Where can folks find it? Yeah, please.
Well, as Michael said, Misen.com. I encourage you to sign up for our email list. Our creatives are cranking out some really beautiful stuff, and we have a lot of new products in the pipeline for this holiday season.
You guys do have beautiful creative. I like unsubscribe from most everything, which is funny given the business I'm in. But like, you know, when I was running my brand, I was like, look, if we're not talking to you, you don't need to keep getting new noise. I love your guys' content. It's really great. I love how truly, as you kind of put in earlier, it is very educational. It's not just like buy, right? It's like helping me understand the product and the product suites. Anyway, thank you both. This was really wonderful. I took a bunch of notes, and as always, I love chatting with you and I get to learn so much. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.